Uh-oh. That's what my video looks like.
Nice right now. So you're so good. Just waiting a few more minutes to get started.
It's very nice. It's very nice here.
Nice painting in the background there.
Okay. All right. There we go. Yeah. They're having a meal.
It's 6 o'clock. Time to start our meeting here. I'm Joe Taylor. I'm the third chair of the Board Moral. Your host tonight, hosting tonight, so I'll chair the meeting tonight. We'll call the meeting to order here at 6 o'clock, and we'll do introductions first. So I'll say Joe Taylor, Board Moral Commissioner, and we'll go around the room.
Richard Rockwell, City of Boardman.
John Murray, Commissioner.
Ivan Henry, Board of Law.
Paul Keeper, the Mayor of Boardman. Ethan Flora, City Council, Boardman.
Brandon Henry, City Manager, Boardman.
John Doherty, City Manager, City Center.
Brenda Prophet, City Councilor, City Boardman.
Debbie Rady, Boardman City. Brady Warburton, one more. Kelly Doherty, Board Commissioner.
Dave Stein, Morrow County.
Karen Federer, City of Boardman.
Roy Trigo, Morrow County.
I'm sure.
Tom Baumgartner, my husband. Heather Baumgartner, City of Boardman, City Councilor.
Aaron Falco, City Manager, Vivian. Matt Jensen, Concerned Resident and County Administrator. Jeff Reynolds, County.
Okay, thank you, everybody. And Brady, if you look Zoom.
Yes, we will start with Joel Peterson.
Joel Peterson, Port Commissioner.
Hi, I'm Veronica Ferguson with the town of Lexington.
Corey Griggs, just Boardman Community Development Association and Boardman Chamber.
And Katie Hines, Lexington Counselor.
Thank you. And that looks like it's it.
Okay, thank you, everybody. First on the agenda is future meeting discussions. At our board meeting last month, we discussed this about including the cities, and we kind of had a consensus on our board that we'd like to try having this city county board meeting include all the cities within the county, and with the county also. And I guess if the rest of the county and the city want to go that direction, that's what we're here to discuss on this particular item. I think there's a few things, whether we do it quarterly, like we have these regular meetings, or should it be only twice a year, what have you, that's all up for kind of discussion, if we want to go that direction. Also, you know, as we host, you know, do we always want to be here on the north end of the floor? Or does each city want to host in their location, that kind of thing. But, I'm open for any comments on, any thoughts going forward. Anybody got any?
Well, I have a thought if nobody else is gonna think about it. I think that if we want to have all of the cities meet, that we should get with the county and the board, that we should do it quarterly. It should not be a dinner meeting. I think that the board should not call on all the cities any longer to give reports at the city count, at the board meetings, because that takes away too long. If they want to come and have this meeting, then they should show up or send whatever they have to put in the packet. So that we know, because I think that the city managers are going to start trying to get together and talk so that they have some communication with each other. Then I think that if we, and I'm okay with that kind of situation, I don't think it should preclude that the port and the county and the city of Boardman cannot have a meeting of our own. But that has nothing to do with this issue. So that's, I don't know if that.
Yeah, some of the discussion we had too was, you know, it really doesn't need to be a dinner meeting. If we did meet quarterly and the ports, and if we do, the port's we've already kind of made a decision, we're gonna take the city's, updates off of our agenda. Since we get it, we'll take a written update if it's like, but the port's not gonna have that on our agenda anymore for our meeting. So you've hit a few things that we've already talked about.
I knew that. I typed everything and sent it to you. No.
I think the more we communicate, the better off we are. If we meet quarterly and communicate across all the different lines that we've got, the better off we're gonna be. I didn't know about, removing the cities off the agenda or the suggestion that we do it. That's interesting. I don't remember talking about it in the Port Commission meeting, but, if that's what the Port Commission wants to do, that's fine. As an agreement amongst all Port Commissioners, but, I think the more communication we can have, the better off we are every time. And I like quarterly, and I understand not hosting the meeting, it might be an expense that the city doesn't necessarily want to incur, and then imagine there's a dollar amount to it, that might be difficult, so. And I think this is such a nice location to meet, and we can zoom in people that can't make it to the meeting, so.
I'll chime in. I've seen it both sides. I mean, I started, being a city councilor in 2000, so I've seen it where it's just been the three entities. And it's kind of growing into something bigger. I see both sides. Because now it's kind of as we're getting bigger and we're becoming, a lot more issues. Maybe it is important to have everybody, but I'm with Karen. If the city of Boardman wants to have a meeting just with the Port Commission and Morrow County, I think they should be able to do it.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm in favor of having quarterly meetings. I think that is appropriate, just based on the amount of things that are going on. And changing the mindset of saying, hey, we're just gonna keep the three. Maybe it is worth investigating and saying, hey, we need to include everybody in this because we are a county. Maybe we're at that time in Morrow County that we start taking that mindset and not saying that it's just this thing. Because I could easily say, well, North End did their thing. If you want a meeting, you can have your meeting down there, but that adds a meeting to you guys and everybody else. Doesn't mean I have to go there as city board. So changing that mindset and saying, maybe it's time to expanded is the wrong language, but expand it to make sure that we all have input on what we want for Martin County.
I think after we have this meeting today, I'm gonna be anxious to see who participates. Because if this is gonna be one of those meetings where we all just come and be polite to each other and really don't discuss the issues, we're wasting our time. So we probably should have had this discussion at the end instead of.
That's a good of the order. What you're thinking is good as the order.
I don't care what we call it.
If you're done your part, what you're thinking is probably not on the standard part right now.
Well, if all the meeting is gonna be had out in front of the building, I'm wasting my time coming in here. That's the bottom line of this story. So if you want to discuss business and what's really going on in the town, and you need some advice or support or whatever, I would hope that we all would say, you know, I really would support Hefner getting their new sewer system or water system or whatever. And I can probably help you do this and this. I've had, some kind of appointments to do these things. But like you say, if we're just gonna come and pat each other on the back. I guess I want blood red.
No, I agree with Karen. When I was on the council, I always wondered why we did meet. Most of the stuff that was discussed, she sent me an email. I mean, everyone in here is so busy. The fact that we can all make it on this night, let's make it worth it. And I am definitely in the notion, like giving the county, that we are Morrow County, not North End, South End, whatever, that it is Morrow County. Yeah, just so much coming on that I would love to be able to walk away, see the generational improvements that we make. I mean, that's the whole point of this, is to be able to walk away and say, hey, this is what we've done together.
So most everybody knows how I function and I'm kind of a self-made individual, do a lot. I've been doing this for decades, but I think it's very critical to come together as members of our government jurisdictions here for, number one, for networking. Quarterly, you get too much, you get busy. But what Brandon shared with Karen is, if I have something that's specifically just an irrigant, don't bring it to the table. But if it's something that the port's involved, the county's involved, or if Boardman's involved, how are we doing collectively together to build that network, build that relationship? As Karen pointed out, if we have an issue and I need some support from another city, from the port, but just to come in and do a city update brief, we do that with the LOC, county do it with the AOC. What's the port doing, in Oregon that we can learn? What are some other jurisdictions, such as, in a small city, and all of us in Morrow County are small. However, Boardman doesn't have a whole lot of the stuff that could be beneficial to ODOT. I mean, they kind of throw you to the curb. To be honest, they do, just because of the nature of, they don't have a whole lot of state highway, but we other do. But there might be some connection that, as a small city, for SCA stuff, how do we function, and then where can we leverage with the county and or the port? But I think the key thing is, how do we network? I know that why it started years ago, because there was animosity. And how do you bring people to the table so that you can break bread, we grow together? We're here, number one, to serve people, and those are the individuals in our community. I don't care what you feel like. They're not here for us, we're here for them. And how do we make it stronger? Right now, Morrow County doesn't have a good thing across the whole county. I don't care what community you come from, you talk across the state, across Eastern Oregon, all of us that are sitting around these tables, we have a representation of Morrow County, that it isn't heard across the state and across our region. We did that to ourselves. Some agencies for ourselves have done, added to that, but I think more importantly, we have done a whole lot internally, we haven't stood together, we pointed. And I remember 11 years ago when I came here, it was really a rip north and south. It died down, but it's back in furry worse than it was 11 years ago. Why? That's us. That's not, oh, that's not the state. That's us. And it's people, us, that are in leadership to make it better, or to make it worse.
I guess I would worry then if the idea is that we don't have the cities, for example, report what they're doing and the challenges that they're facing, not just where they can collaborate with city board, or the county. If they aren't able to put voice to some of their concerns, no matter what they are, they might be small, but it might be big for them. How am I, as the suggestions have been made around this table already, supposed to hear them as a port commissioner who might decide on issues that affect them? If one, they're not on the port agenda anymore, and two, we're suggesting that they don't say it here at this meeting, when am I supposed to hear it? I'm in favor of everybody voicing. I mean, we don't need to go on and on and on and on. I don't want to do that, and I don't want it to be a useless meeting, you know, where we don't say things that are constructive and say our honest needs and feelings. But I do want to hear from these people, because some of us around here at this table, all of us have decisions to make. The more we know, the better we are. The more we communicate, the better we are.
In years past, when I came on the port board, the city and the port were at each other. And Gary Neal had told me about this that had been on in the past. And it kind of died off, and so we kind of resurrected that at the time. And it really helped out at the time. It's just kind of been going on. And to Aaron's comments, and that's really why the city, the county, and port was those three entities, because those three all intersected. There was a lot going on where they affected each other, and not so much, you know, Ione or Irrigant or Henry, but yeah, if we can all bring them together.
So a question, John, because each entity has their own meetings. If you're open to the public, doesn't mean you have to take public comment, but you're open. That's state law. If we had, as Karen said, a tough skin, and bring it up here, then those entities, the port or the county, bring it back, say this was brought up. Now, I don't know how you do it if you're only meeting quarterly. But I know when us managers get together, those things should be brought back to the local jurisdictions. And I think, because I've sat and sometimes not consistent with the board, it's a long meeting. County, I know the commissioners, tongue in cheek, they only work 2 days a month. That's just a little levity there. Isn't that right, David? You only work 2 days a month.
I need a rebuttal for this.
I'm not saying I agree with that. We've heard that. We know it's not true. But I do know, and I've talked with David, is that he likes to sit and listen and hear from staff. But sometimes the window can be, you know, they've got a lot more time, because I was joking with David, 2 days a month. How do you get some of the constituents? Well, maybe it needs to be, where do you put that? You know, just to say that we're gonna have the board, Joe, to come and do a briefing can take a lot of time. How do you make it more concise? But if you have an issue, how do you bring it up? I think we need to look through that. But the key is, how do we get together? How do we build relationships and network? Because right now, Morrow County needs some healing. And I say that truthfully, because right now, we don't have a good reputation across the state.
Yes.
Tony, I'll give my opinion about Morrow County, and then the other two commissioners have something they want to put in that. I mean, we've got all the free time, right? You know,
I know.
We can have meetings all every, you know? Because we don't do that. But, my thought is, I would go, if it's
county boardman, I would go to that. If it's all the cities, I would want to go to that. And the reason probably is because the county has a lot, I won't say more, but we have contact with every entity. Whereas maybe the city of Boardman doesn't have contact with the city of Elton so much. Or, the ports, most of their developments in the north end, we all know that. So my position would be, I would, if there's two groups, I would go to both of them because of our unique position as a county, where we're kind of all over the place. So that's my thought.
John, you have an opinion on, having this meeting?
At the very least quarterly. With the move to remove city updates from the monthly board meeting. And I think it's imperative for Ione, Hefner, Lexington, Oregon to at least have quarterly forums to voice their opinions, concerns, challenges, successes.
I guess I would like to clarify, I agree with that, I think that I've been here way too long, but in the beginning of time, when I first started, we used to have a city manager's meeting. And we would rotate, and then all of a sudden, it became, some people from the county started attending and kind of took over setting the agenda and wanting us to get more like code things done. But the real plus about when we were just meeting as the city managers, and we weren't doing it on company time, that was the other thing, that we would meet after work. So we weren't necessarily representing the communities, we just were, so that we could talk about all the things that were going on in our community that you needed help with. Because to be honest, I'm gonna tell a story. The very first time I went to the League of Oregon Cities, I went into some guy, state guy. And I said, how come Lexington cannot get a sewer and water system? And he says, well, come here and let me show you. So he took me over to the book, and per capita, they have a big revenue. Because all the farmers' addresses are Lexington or Ione. So they weren't qualified for any of the, the grants and stuff. So those are the things that you learn by talking to each other that I really would hope that we would continue to do so that we know that, gosh, they've worked 20 years to get the sewer system in Kettner. We've set a ton of meetings trying to decide whether we're gonna pipe it to Lexington or divide it in the middle and up the hill and down the hill. So bring those ideas forward and let us see that, so we know that at least you're making headway now. I think that's really important for the county particularly, and is important to know.
So.
So,
we keep trying, I'd say we keep trying.
okay, so is there consensus that we want to have this meeting quarterly with all the cities? And can we agree that we will rotate who hosts, I guess if you want to call it? Does that seem reasonable? I don't know what the order would be. We can just write it down alphabetically and go back.
That's fair.
Everybody's gonna get it one time or another, no matter who goes first, I guess.
Do you want to include the meal with that as well? I mean, because it is around $500.
Yeah, so that's a $500 bill to provide dinner.
I gotta say, no.
It's definitely not necessary.
Karen said no.
Okay,
No one objected.
okay. I say, I'm sure you can do it cheaper with pizza or something, but.
Yes, I don't have a problem rotating. The question I have is where, because we have all of us right now, this is a public, it's been advertised, correct? And you have to have by state law, you have to have internet access if the public wants to. And I don't know if there's enough space with internet capabilities. And I just throw that out, there. You can look at that so that we don't violate something that statute.
Network and host, our conference is big enough for this group. We can have 12 people sitting at the table close together.
I was thinking Lexington and my own, but I mean.
Well, yeah,
Somebody doesn't want to, I'm sure we could do it between 3 or 4 or however many cities.
Does Katie have a?
yeah, Katie, can you hear us, or Veronica?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good evening, everyone. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. But listening to the discussion around the table tonight is encouraging. And I really think a quarterly meeting would be sufficient as far as from my opinion and my view. And I see this just more as an opportunity, like most have said tonight, to network and bring forth the issues that are at hand, because those are, of course, always changing. So, and I really believe that we are stronger together as a county, and, coming together and talking about what the needs are. Thank you.
And we would be available to host virtual meeting and have, whoever wanted to attend in person here as well. We have the technology, are fully capable of hosting here as well, our turnaround.
Maybe misunderstood. You have the ability to host us physically there, Veronica?
Oh, I wasn't sure if that's what you meant by taking our turn hosting the meeting. I know Hepner
Yeah.
mentioned we have.
That's what we're talking about, yes. I mean, you have the physical space for us, like to host all these people that are here now.
I believe we have 24 seats and 5 at our council table.
Okay.
Sounds like these are details that will be worked out as we go through the process too.
Yeah,
And once you get to that person's turn, it can be a discussion to have them, not those in the city. And if they need help, I'm sure any of us could give them the help, either host the meeting or whatever, I'm sure.
And since Boardman already did it once, do we go, just keep going down the line? So the first one's Garrigan, I mean, do we?
Have you hosted it? I thought the Ford was the one always.
He pays the bill. Well, how far do you want to go back?
Sorry, Brandon.
I would say this is maybe number 1. The first time, to host the salt.
Oh,
I
I just wanted Darren to do it.
It can work out.
Would everybody be comfortable with Joe came up with the schedule of who's hosting next? And then go from there?
Yeah.
We just send out this.
Yeah.
Or
And it's.
I just think you have to have the city managers should probably be the ones to have a lot of input on, and the port managers, city managers, the county managers should be the ones that come up with. I think that they're the big ones, I would think, that would have the most, and then we need to, if it's quarterly, then we're told to pay every bill.
Well, we can make that happen. One other thing is, as long as everybody's all right with it, it's just the way it's been, is, the second Wednesday is the board meetings. The second Wednesday. I assume you're all okay sticking to that format. Can you make it, David?
I'll try real hard.
Yeah.
I'll try hard. So,
Well, it's one of those things that aren't working,
I know.
Yeah. Okay, any other discussion anybody wants on that?
Well, this is Joel. I'd like to suggest, who sets the preliminary agenda?
Well, in the past, it's been that hosting entity.
Okay,
Yeah, the hosting entity in the years past is set the agenda. Of course, everybody's gonna know, so they can send in their
right.
there are stuff that they do want on there, just like any other, agenda item. Okay. We're all- Yes, Brenda.
I want to put a plug in for the meal. Some of us work right until 5:30 or 5:40. We're racing here to get to the meeting or down in South County, if that's what we're gonna do, or someplace, right? And, you know, I mean, I'm not gonna get home until what, 7 or 7:30 tonight. I just would like to have more than one or two ideas on. So is there something?
I think it would be good to support local businesses too.
Sure, and I guess if it was I don't, is it the expense that we're worried about, or is it the? I don't know, is there?
Well, expense number one
Okay,
is what Brandy and I, Lisa talked about briefly last week, and then, the burden on the other cities. You know, and automatically you're thinking, okay, Lexington and Ione, you know, they don't have a lot of people, and their budget may not support that, especially.
Here's a, Mayor Keeper brought up, you know, managers do it. Next week, you're coming over to my place, the LOC conference, small city. When we do small cities, we do it quarterly. We fit the bill, so it's my bill. Let's talk about that so we can look at what it is and then compare, Joe.
Yeah.
So I have to lift it.
Mhm.
And then for smaller cities, that, let's say that, Lexington wanted to host it, then there's a pool that the League of Oregon Cities helps them out. That might be something that for those smaller ones, how do we get to yes? And I think that would be something, but we could get a cost, how it's gonna look. You know, I'm in favor of having some meals. I wonder though if Joel is slighted that he doesn't get some of this delicious meal, but, he's gotta be in town. But I, for those that can get there, I think we still need to do the meals, but I think we look at, Brandon, at least we can get a cost. Sure. I'm picking it up for the small cities. How do we help them protect them?
Heather.
I just had a suggestion with like the smaller cities, you know, because Boardman, we have like a certain budget. And with the smaller cities like Ione, Kentner, Lexington, they have a smaller budget. Could they combine their city meeting into one and have all three of the cities hosted at the same time and split that cost? And also, work out the details of sending out the agenda?
I don't, go,
Sorry, so like, when we're competing, or whatever, we have a very similar schedule, we're talking, like, we go out the benefit world, we have our tournaments, our league tournament changes every year. And those about.
you're talking wrestling.
Yes, so, but what I'm getting at is, like, when we're talking about meals. So a lot of times, the host school will provide the meal, and what I was gonna ask, is there a rule on whether it has to be a catered meal, or can it be, maybe my wife decides to make food for everybody, so like, when we have hospitality room, all our kids bring food. And then that's how we feed all our staff and our coaches and refs and all that other stuff. And so my point is that probably won't be an added expense if you have that option to do that as well. That's, I'm just one.
Brandon's not cooking though, right?
Food.
I'm just saying, that's, this, we're talking about saving money.
There's other avenues of providing food, that's the route we're in, so.
We'll work there.
Yeah, those cities can work that out and go about it, you know, nothing set in stone, so. Okay, very good. Good enough on general agreement on that? Doesn't look like Jim has any questions. Okay, well, we'll move on to the next item, which is, city updates. Who city wants to go first? How about just Gary? I'll make the call.
You wanted to, see if we get winded, he's gotta tell us the story. You gotta close it. Yeah, very golden. Mine is, you heard where I'm at, any help or whatever it is. One is looking at, one of the things that, we as, have the courts involved in is, I think that it would be helpful if we collectively look at some of our things to have a calendar to look ahead, way ahead. Let me give you an example on that. When all of us go to the port and we buy or to mark, we need some help. If there was a look ahead as big as you can get, so that we can plug stuff in as we're looking at projects being jurisdictions, because right now everybody goes and, you know, what doesn't like me because they're kicking us to the curb. Well, they can't do everything. That's an example. Another one, as jurisdictions, we don't have other districts here, but we all go out for bonds. Typically, it seems, all at the same time, and we kill each other. We don't have to collectively work together. And I think there should be a schedule or a process that we need to look at. So that's would be an ask. That's a hard lift, but we need to talk about that. Hey, you're gonna go for a bond, you're killing me. Because it's hurting. You know, if you're only got $10 per thousand or $5 per thousand, I think we need to discuss that. That's a hard lift. And then, and I know the port does that. The port is helping us do some incubator stuff. Everybody applies for the port to do some of the basic. I think there should be a parameter what also that I would ask is what are some expertise that we as jurisdictions have that we can bring and so that when we go to ask a question, we can say, hey, Brandon, you're expert in this field, the city of Boardman is. Karen's an expert or got more expertise on writing bonds hypothetically, and it might need Lexington and I we might need some assistance so that we can all talk about that when we share that. So those are some things from the city area. I keep going forward and I'll keep writing grants and excess of 15 million now in the year. So, but how, you know, if somebody wants some expertise and some assistance with the port helps. County, I just pick on, I like, you know, I'll say this, David, he's taken it. I told him I was glad he got elected to be a commissioner because now I can open, I didn't have to fear that the paper was gonna write about me. But I forgot that his son's right, so I guess I'm in trouble.
Hey, hey, I gotta run again. Chris has firewalled me off the paper. He won't let me have, I don't get to look at it or anything like that.
But if you talk to him, though,
But he doesn't want to, he didn't want to talk about it. He goes, hey, I'm not.
Well, that's good.
Oh,
That's the-
well, but that's the way it is.
But that was just a conversation, and then I heard at the meeting, that's why I'm picking on. Because David and I had a conversation, and somebody publicly said, well, you guys should work 2 days. I know the commissioners don't. Somebody said that, so. But then, that's it, okay? Boardman, you wanna?
Sure, I wasn't prepared for this, so I do like the concept of switching gears and not repeating the report. That's nuts. The one thing that comes to mind, again, the city managers, we're all meeting at the end of the month. The hope is from there to be able to create something moving forward, like what are we gonna work on? And we talked about collectively presenting for the preds or something like, hey, as a county, as cities, this is what we're looking. So kind of along what Aaron is saying, you know, the piggyback off of each other, you know, expertise wise, but also communicating, and that's where we're at. So we are on target for that meeting at the end of the month, and then we'll just perpetuate that. So.
I'm just a redheaded stepchild, like Palo city managers.
Yeah, it wants to. Brandon, you got more than that, I know you do. So help me, go. Maybe we can.
No, the only other thing is that we are working on our transportation system plan, that we got the $225,000 grant, which will eventually come to the county, I believe, that we'll have to have something signed off. So updating our TSP is a big deal, which goes into, we're updating municipal code, development code, doing audits and things like that. That doesn't necessarily affect everyone. Something that we'll collaborate on is housing. Housing's a big deal. Hopefully we'll, the next time we visit, next quarter, that we'll have some solid plans of what to do. I know, again, being here for 7 years prior, there was a lot of talk about housing. My hope is we're gonna have some solid answers. This is what we can do, which will, again, collaboration between everyone. So that is it.
John?
So right now, Hefner, we've got a couple things going on that are HB 2017, which was, street sidewalk wastewater project that ran 2020, 2021. We're finally finished with some final surveys. I have a meeting with ODOT at the end of this week, and hopefully they will release the final funds on that. There'll be some, much appreciated funds going back into the city's reserves. Continued projects with Anderson and Perry. They are working on our biosolids. We had a DEQ meeting this week, drafting on the DEQ, answer questions for DEQ, another draft going back to them. Hopefully it's completed shortly. A couple weeks, we'll have the next draft in. And then our wastewater, our water master plan, they're all on target for 2024 reports. Plans being finished. And a big one that we have is, we're calling it the Cross Hill Water Project. And that will be the Robinson addition, the new addition, housing addition that will be on the east hill above the courthouse, above the hospital. And what we're looking at for that is putting in a new reservoir and new well on that hill, and then tie into the city's domestic water supply. And that's one, we've got Northwest Engineering working on, so it should be complete, like every day should be complete tomorrow. I mean, it's very close to being completed. Once we have that, then we can include that with our water master plan. We can go into looking at the design and funding phase on that. But that's one that we really need for water security and water redundancy, because all of our water right now outside of well 5, which is up by our reservoir number 1, but it's very small gallons per minute, but all of our water comes up Willow Creek and it crosses the Bonfort Bridge. So if something tragic were to happen, a line broke, you know, we've got 2 to 3 days of water in town. So this is one that we're gonna push really hard. Hopefully in 25, we're gonna grab on that, looking for funding. And then another one is we're working with the Corps of Engineers on floodplain mitigation throughout the city. The floodplain studies for the city of Hefner, if you ever look at floodplain maps, most of downtown is a 100-year floodplain, but a large portion of the city is going to be regulated floodway, which you can't build a garage in your house. You can't build a new house. You can't do anything permanent when you're in a regulated floodway. And so some of the information is probably outdated on that. It's probably a 2-year process. We started it in November. We had a meeting with Oregon Emergency Management. And then in December, we have a meeting with Corps of Engineers, Oregon Emergency Management, myself, and Kim Cutsworth. And we're gonna have monthly meetings going on. And if we can get the FEMA regulated floodway redrawn, less restricted, that would open up, we've got some derelict properties that could become buildable lots. We have people that, you know, would rebuild a house, or, I mean, there's a lot of industrial and residential that can open up on it. It's not gonna add 500 residents to the town, but it would avail property to be built on, which currently cannot. Those are the big items that we're looking at right now. And then I do have a question, since it's quarterly, if I have questions for the board, would it be now to ask, or would it be further on in the agenda?
Now?
Okay, to be frank, what is the plan with the South Florida Industrial Park?
Plan is to get it out of the floodway, and we're actively working on that right now. The last bit of hang up on getting the OK from property owners at that property to allow the bidding of projects that will be done next year to remove it. If they're gonna apply it, street bank, it's all been approved. And the plans in place, we just need to get okay, and then we need to go out to bidding. Hopefully, it's the worst done in some. That will remove the restriction on the majority, vast majority of the land owners. So it
Yeah,
allows them to build.
I'm aware of the flood mitigation part. I was just wondering kind of what's a long-term plan with that? Because if I look back at the 2020 Port Strategic Plan, there's 15 opportunity points in that city, and the South Industrial Park is not mentioned in that. You know, we still have the sign up by the office building that says future home of the industrial center, and been up there for years. I believe that was probably a promise or a campaign point for one of the commissioners. And, you know, it's getting to the point that sign needs to be repainted because it's faded. And so it's something that I look at as the city of Hefner. You know, we do have Portland right outside the city that, I'll be honest, it's an eyesore. I mean, 25 years that the mill's been shut down. And luckily, we're getting to a point where generations are changing, so people have gotten out of the mindset that the mill is gonna come back. Because for years, that was just a thought. That used to be like this with the military. Well, the mill is coming back. But I would love to see that land. I'm not expecting a large industrial to go in there, but you know, we've got J Coil, we've got now manufacturing there, small industry, anything that could add any amount of jobs to the south end of the county, I am for. And that is the main reason that I want to take part in the corporate meetings, because it's valuable land. It's, like I said, with the logistics that we face here, we don't have interstate, we don't have rail, we don't have barge. Not looking at large industry, but anything that I can get.
Example would be like coil manufacturing, just bought a brake. Well, that's a $500,000 investment, some such amount. That's a lot of money. They can't actually build onto the building to place that brake for their $500,000 order of equipment or $500,000 order of manufacturing because they can't build it in there because of the floodway. That's the kind of problem we have. I think it will open up a lot once that floodway is drastically for the creek. That's good. Yeah, the sign, yeah, I mean, if it comes around to the next general election, it's 4 years since that was promised, that's gonna be a problem. That will come up. And, but I think we've already started talking about it. The Port Commission started talking about it, and the executive director. So it'll get done. Well, unfortunately, the problem is, much like the build project, the build grant project out here, we're $3 million underwater with that because of the time lapse. I don't think we'll be able to build a building that seems close to what was initially planned for because the cost overruns now. Well, why did that happen? You know? Like lower cost, we really will. For example, the comment in Hefner is why don't we just build baseball fields out there? Not on my watch. Nothing, there's industrial ground that we have that we can put industrial businesses on. Well, fabrication's double the amount of orders, which for Boardman isn't anything, but for Hefner, it's three more jobs.
Just a comment for the veteran, if you reach out to Echo, who did one of those other cities, and they worked because of the floods we had over the last few years. And they did something, got federal and state stuff, so the port should too, how they beat and pushed it back on the core into also FEMA, help get those berms or dikes and all that, so that it moved the water, and then they own it, and it helps some of the other jurisdictions. So I know Echo did something really big somewhere northeast of Pendleton, but Pendleton did some stuff too, so that might be good to reach out to some of our local jurisdictions.
The old mill site is basically shovel ready once the plan is finished.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, I believe it was January when they hoped to have, plan finals, right?
I couldn't speak to that exactly.
But it's, I mean,
Yeah, but
it's
it's-
close, it's not,
yes,
we're not
it is.
waiting for. Like, in the city, we're looking at probably 2 years before, the Corps of Engineers, FEMA, and Oregon Emergency Management can complete their studies and hopefully do some mitigation, and it's just math. But, no, the industrial ground outside of town, that is, like, I mean, that's looking like this year, project can start. There's $2.536 million in the port's budget for the economic industrial flood mitigation.
Which is business organization, by the way. The grant that was received by the action, I think would be long.
Yeah, 2 million from Business Oregon, 350 with Fish, 100,000 county.
And there has, I mean, we're always thinking, of what can we do there, but the floodplain is a hurdle. And just everything that, as you know, business wise going down, is a hurdle. The buildings, yeah, we looked at tearing them down, but it costs money to get rid of them. You think, oh, somebody should be able to tear this down and make money, take it out. You know, it always ends up costing more, fair amount of money to do it, so it's been staying fast.
Say, but
Looking for opportunities to come along.
with quarterly meetings, I will do my best to be polite, but I will be passionate, because
Oh, yeah.
I took the job in Hefner. I don't ever envision Hefner being 5,000 people, but I would like to see an increase in employment and an increase in housing. And as I get through, I mean, 4 months of the job. So there's still a lot of wet behind the ears, but I will be passionate about things that are in our yard, our area, things that I can help with, or. So like I said, I'll do my best to be polite, but I will be passionate.
Joe.
Yes, Karen.
Okay. I appreciate that you're passionate about that. And that the board has spent a lot of money trying to get your property, their property that the port has, out of that flood zone. Which probably has nothing to do with the city being in the flood zone. But I I know that when they were trying to get the mill back, they're up to about $12 million invested in trying to get those jobs back. There's been more money spent the last few years to try to get this floodplain situated for you. I think you have to take into consideration that the port has done as much for Hefner. Whether it turned out like you hoped it would is a totally different thing, but it isn't that they haven't worked diligently trying to get jobs created in Hefner, Oregon. And I'm just gonna say, since you brought this up, that when you allowed the railroad, and I know you weren't there, and I don't know who was there, and I don't even care, but when they took that railroad out of Hefner, that was one of the biggest mistakes they made, because now you can't get rain out of there. I mean, so I hope you are really nice and polite to the Port Commission, because they have worked diligently with a lot of money.
Joe was my first boss.
Yeah. First,
I mean, first off the bar.
yeah.
Well, I don't know you personally at all, so I'm not attacking you, but I just want you to know that there's history here, and it's not the court as you know it.
Yeah, and those are the good things to know. Yeah, Karen's very eloquent about this. And they don't write it down.
Oh, well,
Yeah, we'll keep listening.
Yeah, we will, it's actually, yeah, keep working for all of us. Yeah, just on the flood mitigation, though, Karen, there's a $2.6 million budget for this. The port has spent, what, 96,000 on Anderson Ferry?
Oh, yeah,
How much?
128.
128,000 out of 2.6 million. That's all the funds that the port has put into this mitigation project. The rest is grants coming from WICFED or from Business Oregon. So yes, the port has worked hard. Some of other people, the local work hard to make this happen.
Anything else, John? Nope. Good to see you. All right, thank you. Okay. City of Lexington.
Okay, So first, I'd like to thank everyone for putting this meeting together. It does mean a lot to us. In the past, Lexington has not been as involved as we'd hoped to. And we want to continue to be present for all possibilities and opportunities, and we will be available for questions, concerns, and discussions in the future. Lexington recently concluded the water system master plan and the wastewater study. We plan to get a second well as our top priority, though there are many more aspects to the water master plan. We recently held our one stop in November to explore the funding potential opportunities. With the project cost now estimated to be $4,283,000. The financial options presented were pretty unfeasible considering the town's financial standpoint of only 125 metered water customers. We couldn't even do an increase to help with that. And it's without a current financial backup or expected increases in the income of the town, it's not feasible. The CREZ money for the last 3 rounds has been put into our water reserve fund to use toward funding this infrastructure project in the future, hopefully. And the safety of our main street has also been a major concern of ours, alongside, our water system, of course. So in recent years, we've continued to apply for the transportation growth management grant with ODOT, but we've had no luck with being awarded. We continue to try for that. In the meantime, I have put a request in to reduce the speed limit of our downtown area in hopes of improving our walkability of Main Street and creating a safer environment for our community, as well as for the people traveling through. We are working with ODOT currently to install new signage for our crosswalk at the intersection of Highway 207 and Highway 74. That will most likely happen sometime this month, weather permitting. And the town of Lexington has had some big accomplishments, considering for us, and some great improvements in the last few years, and we're continuing to aim to do so. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody got any questions for the Lexington?
Hey, I just like to add to the conversation. This is Katie Imes. Our water sewer infrastructure and, the water is our main priority for first and foremost. We're actually at a very critical level here in Lexington. I've lived here for 5 years, and every year we end up issuing a notice to our residents to be wise with our water supply, because our well gets down to a very critical level. And so being on one well and one storage site is continuing to be a critical concern for Lexington and its sustainability. So I just want to reiterate what Veronica has put forth, and that is that, this is a really important issue for Lexington. I know that the Port of Morrow and the county are aware of it. And I know that you guys are just as concerned as we are. So I really appreciate being able to get together and talk more about this. But, right now we're in the middle of doing the funding process, and, hopefully we get our community block grant approved. Right now we're not. If that happens, that would be huge for Lexington as far as getting state and federal funding. We've also talked to our representative, Greg Smith. He's fully aware of the situation and is a strong supporter of our water system here in Lexington. So just wanted to reiterate, where we're at in Lexington and how critical it is. So really appreciate all your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Yes, Karen. Again.
Well, we have used the community block grant a couple of times in Boardman. And so I have some definite, feelings about that, and so I can probably be of help to you. You really have to have a really good bookkeeping system going, and it's I guess I would just say it's a difficult process for I mean, you're happy to have the money, but it's a difficult process to go through. And so.
Well, I
any advice?
appreciate that. I appreciate that feedback. Cause we're just in unfamiliar territory here with trying to round up all the funding that it's gonna take for us. So,
Well, they have money, so if you can get it, I'll help you do the bookkeeping.
Karen, is there usually a match with that in the grant?
Pardon me?
Is there a match with that in the grant any kind? What's the buy?
Well, I don't recall if I had to have a match, but it always costs you. You know what I'm saying? I have to have somebody come do the dirt work and, because we used it last on, okay, quick, tell me what we used it on that I complained forever about. Anyway, we used it, well, we used it on the Castle Rock to start. We used it on the senior center. And so that was a process.
So that was a long time ago.
I know, but we used it. But it is really,
sure. Also would like to add a little more information to this topic. We are in the middle of doing an income survey, and Veronica could speak more to this than I can. But that's really going to determine a whole lot for us when we go out for funding. And Karen, you touched on this earlier that depending on your zip code, you could
yes.
benefit from that or you could not benefit from that, right? So
Yes.
we'll see
You're in-
how our income survey turns out there.
Yeah,
you're
for
in
some
the bad
reason our-
zip code.
Sorry, for some reason, our numbers, our number for our HUD low to moderate income is really wonky. It's almost like it was miscalculated. There's no way that we would not be qualified, especially, in our actual situation. So that's why we've decided to do the income survey right away. And hopefully we get a better number, because as of now, we're not CDBG eligible, but hopefully with that more accurate number, yeah, we will be.
Okay,
Karen, I'm thinking with the seniors, the match was your land and our labor, the broadband, and I think was what we used that night.
She's talking about the
I'm
senior
talking
center
about
match
the
your property. as
Yeah.
opposed to-
On the senior center, yes, and then we had, our yes, in the phone company, we made everybody in the homes for time.
We put a lot of money in there too, the city did too.
Yes, yeah, no,
Because it needs to be done for our city.
yeah, it's you're working with, here's the deal, you're working with federal money when you work with block grant money. So it's not like working with the city or the county, the state, because the state is one thing to work with. But when you start working with the federal government, that's what I say, the bookkeeping is, I don't want to discourage you, you just have to have somebody that's really on the bookkeeping part.
I think part of what the block grants also is the League of Cities is pushing right now for public comments to, change the guidelines of the community development block grant, because 10 metropolitan cities and 5 metropolitan counties get their block grants direct distributed from the federal government, whereas Boardman, Hefner, Iron, Lexington, they would get it through the state via federal, and the regulations coming through the state are a lot stricter. So whereas like, I've got a water project coming up, I can't apply for a block grant because I don't have a design yet. Can't use it for design, planning, et cetera. Whereas with the federal, like Portland and Gresham, they could use that money for the design, planning, purchase of land, et cetera, where I could just use it for construction. And each segment of the block grants, whether it's public infrastructure, whether it's community development, they have certain restrictions that are a lot more stringent for the non-metropolitan. And that's where a lot of people get into, well, hey, it'd be great to have $1 million to put it in a well, but I need $150,000 to get that design, and I don't have it. So that's where it.
Aaron,
Yeah, so to add to that, because I'll be honest, I don't like block grants either, because they've split it up and it's in Oregon, and you need to change the statute. Most of them come through HUD, and Oregon just, business Oregon makes it hard. But here's something that's interesting, so, around this table here, we need to say, I need some help to get some support, to get some planning. Another one that Veronica mentioned is doing that wage survey. Business Oregon will throw you $20,000, but it might cost you $80,000 to $100,000 to do that wage survey. It's frustrating as small communities. How do we collectively work together? And in that process of looking, I remember about 5, 6 years ago, it was really growing. Morrill County was. We were about 57,000 median income in Morrill County, when Umatilla County, West Umatilla County was pushing 40. Now they're flipping, but that hurts. It's nice to have that bigger income in Morrill County, but the only way you're going to offset it with the feds, the state and the feds, is do those wage surveys, and it's tough. And then they still say, no. But how do you get the money to go get that? How do you get the design? There used to be a design and construct. Oregon, Business Oregon split it. In the last year when we got our water grant for our sewer conversion 1 and 2. Now you have to do all the planning, so then you can ask for more money. Now, how old is that plan? It gets over 5 years, you got to do another one, do an update. I think that's wrong, but that's Oregon. Oregon is very restricted. We have too much things. I'll be honest. Then how do we help each other so that we can get to yes faster? Because it's tough.
Yeah, with that, they're looking at their sewer projects, they got the numbers and they gradually stepped up their sewer rates. Their water rates were fine, sewer rates were too low to get money from the state. So they gradually stepped those up, and now we're in that, Business Oregon sets it at 1.25% of the median income over the last 5-year average for your zip code. And so, if you're Lexington and you look at your water rates and they're low, like, well, we can't double them in year 1, but if we're possibly hoping to get a grant in 3 years, kind of have to step that up. Luckily, Anderson Perry worked with City of Hefner and noticed that, so we gradually stepped ours up, so we're at that threshold right now. But it is difficult for the cities to get that information. There's a lot of hoops we have to jump through to get it.
Okay. Thank you, Lexington. I don't know for Katie there and Veronica, I don't know if you heard it correctly, but Karen was volunteering her time. She didn't come right out and say it.
Oh, I heard it. I heard it, Karen.
I don't know if we want
I'll
to.
hold you to it. Be much appreciated. Veronica would much appreciate it. That's the other challenge for us, small cities, is that we have, very limited staff. And we wear a lot of hats, right? And everybody's aware of that in Morrill County, no matter what position you hold. There's a lot to do with, very few people. So, any extra help is always appreciated. I just wanted to add also to the conversation, and then I'll be quiet. I reached out to Cheryl Jervis, who's our Region 5 Transportation Growth Manager. That's a lot. Anyway, she oversees, the TGM program, the Transportation Growth Program. And I know Boardman was awarded this year, which is wonderful, to update your TSP, it sounds like. And, but that program is very, it's the funding there is so limited. And, it would be wise of us all to reach out to our legislators and senators and to ask them to, you know, start putting a little more money in those programs for planning, because we all need planning. We all need it's just a need all across Oregon. So if we could collectively do that, I think that would be a good thing. We all have needs.
Okay, thank you. Anything else for Lexington? Okay. Moving on, we'll need to go to our next item agenda, which is the county update.
Okay, I'll start it off. I'm gonna talk, I got a few things I'm gonna need to report on, then Roy, and then Matt, and then, if Jeff has anything he wants to add, so I'll try to move it right along here. Some of the stuff we have going, the Sunstone, solar farm that's going in to the south of the bombing range. There's 10,000 acres there. That's going in, and their application is in front of EPSAC right at this time, Energy Facility Siting Council. They have a choice of bigger projects. They can go local for approval, or they can go to the state. They chose to go to the state. This is prime wheat, dryland wheat. And I'm not labeling that prime. There's an economic impact statement that's out there that I've been reading. It's very, very good. They hired somebody to do it. I tell you, everything that, this project, because it's quite a large project, so, anyway, it's very interesting. So one of the things that they're doing to take to EFSEC is they're putting out some, mitigation funds they're gonna give out in the county. I'm not sure if the amount is nailed down yet, so I'm not gonna say the amount, but I think it's gonna be substantial. But they're setting up a process now about, taking the, proposals on and funding those mitigation projects, and it's mitigating the economic impact of taking 10,000 acres of wheatland out of production. So we got that.
Can I interrupt? When you say take it out of the economic, what do you mean by that? These are independent people selling their land, and they're gonna have to pay money
No, I mean,
due to the economic impact.
So just to give you an example, Morrow County grain growers, when you take out 10,000 acres of wheat, Morrow County grain growers now is affected by that. So are your trucking. It's the.
Oh, that's the.
It's a mitigation countywide.
So a person who wants to sell their land has to think about the economic impact that it does to the county.
No, they don't. They don't have to think about it.
They just do it and then just everybody pays
I
for
mean,
it.
I'm a big person. I mean, I'm not talking one way or the other, whether it should or should not be done.
No, I'm trying to understand the impact. If I own 10,000 acres and I wanna sell it, I should be able to sell it.
You do.
Well, let's, I appreciate your question, but let's get through that and we'll get your question at the end.
You absolutely can. The landowners that are involved, they can do it. There's no obstacle. It's the solar developer who has to get approved through the state. And the state is gonna look at, okay, what was the economic impact of taking this much property out of farm production? And this is, it's an innovative, it's a new way. They haven't done it anywhere else on trying to, present this to the EFSEC and the state and say, here's our, plan to, counter this, taking this land out. Doesn't have anything to do with the landowners, except, you know, they'll be laying off some workers and stuff like that, you know. There's a little bit, and it's all in this economic impact statement. It's a really good study. So anyways, the mitigation program is designed to take to EFSEC and say, pass our project, this is what we're doing for agriculture. Is that kind of right, Larry?
That.
And that comes from the solar company.
Yeah.
Yes.
The money.
The money comes from the solar company through EFSEC, and they help with the mitigation to the rest of the county for the impacts of that land that came out of farm use.
Can I ask something?
Yeah.
So when they do this study, are they considering
in the environmental impact that we may or may not know about, and the reason why I bring this up is.
Here's an interesting fact. I'm glad you brought that up.
Can I finish my?
Okay, go ahead.
Real quick, so I had a pretty good conversation, with a really good friend of mine's, pretty big farmer in Central Oregon, and he was telling me in a nutshell about how, I don't know what entity came in, but it started with an environmental lawyer coming in, finding some big project that was going to be developed. They didn't want that. Somehow some fraud got into it, and now they can't do anything with their land because they took all their water rights from them. So now they, not only can they not farm, now the land just sits there and it's just sitting there. They can't do anything with it now. And so when you're talking about this project, what are the odds that something similar could happen to that very specific thing? Because the way he explained it to me was, it was a lawyer from, not even from here, typed in some search engine, said this, and this, brought it up, and then they chose to sue, won, and now the land is worthless now. To the individual that owns it, and they can't do anything. And so that's what my point is like, is there a concern for that?
Because of the protected species or?
Yes, so it was like a spotted frog.
Okay.
And then in the end, he told me, is like, yeah, so we no longer have water rights.
Okay.
And limited, they can't even build on it. That was the other thing, so anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you. That is a very interesting point, because the scrub ground in Morrow County, why did they put the solar panels on the scrub ground? Now, the way I understand it is the farm ground has already been cultivated, and there are no squirrels on it, or frogs, or whatever. There is some water lines, but they haven't been used in a long, long time, if ever. So that ground is already, you know,
You should be.
cleansed environmental. Yeah, that's.
I just thought of bringing that in because.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting point, you know, why did they do that, why did they, you know, over here on the scrub ground? That's what I understand. The other thing is, then sticking with, the renewable projects. I don't know if you're familiar with the Wheat Ridge project, it was about half built out, or close. With what we already have in the county. And then they were gonna go into Umatilla County, maybe mostly, and finish it on a project called Wheat Ridge East. Well, PGE and Next Era, which own this property, they decided to bring that solar, which is solar, wind, and batteries, to bring that all into Morrow County. So they've come to us and we've approved we're working on a road agreement with the construction, so it's getting close. And they've already been all approved and everything. We are gonna do, a SIP agreement for that particular part of it, so the construction, you're gonna see some more windmills being hauled in and all that. Oh, and then back to Sunstone just for a second. They do get a property tax break. About 2 years ago, from the prior administration, a pilot, what they call a pilot programs or tax reduction was signed with Sunstone. And so they already have that in place with the county. So that's and then we have Wheat Ridge East is going on. Okay, next thing up is Tower Road Data Center. I don't know if you remember that one. There was a data center out here on Tower Road. It was gonna purchase some land from 3 Mile Farms, 250 acres, I think. And it was really structured. And 3 Mile said, it's never been farmed, we're never gonna farm it, but it is zoned farm ground. So, LCDC stepped in and opposed it. It went through our planning commission and it was vetted. They spent a lot of time talking about this project. Very, very well researched, very well vetted, all kinds of different things you want planning. And they passed it, and the county commissioners, we approved what the planning department did. So then, LCDC came in and said, we're gonna appeal this decision to allow this land to be rezoned industrial. So.
And
I
it's a
know-
limited overlay, so only industrial projects could be done on limited access.
Yeah, am I missing anything else on that?
No.
Okay, no, I think I'm glad that's it.
Well, and I would like to add that there's a lot of acreage that's good farm ground that's in the space age industrial. This in that same area.
This, this tells you how ridiculous it is. I mean, I
It's kind of
went
done.
to the hearing, on three, they came to us and asked to approve the planning department's, zone change. And the guys from 3 Mile were there, soil influence were there, and they said all this, it's never been farmed, never will be farmed. And they, 3 Mile pointed out and said, we have a circle over here that's zoned industrial. We could have sold that to them, taken that land out of production, and we wouldn't even be in front of you guys, because it's allowed use. So, it's, you wonder sometimes, it's just a label, it's labeled farm, anyway. I think they made an offer to reduce the footprint of the data center, the amount of land, but I don't know if that went through or not. I think it's still being appealed, the decision, so that's in a bit of a limbo out there with that data center. And that's a different data center. It's not Amazon, so. Okay, then the last thing I just want to throw out there is, I don't know if you guys have seen, or have seen last year, or the, tax report that the assessor gives. Has anybody seen that, or comes in and gives a slide report? I would encourage you, and I'm gonna commit Mike Norman to this, because I asked him, I said, would you be willing to go on the road and show this to like city councils or different places? Because this is one, and I think you agree, guys, that this is one of the best. He's been doing it the last several years. It's one of the best, clearest reports on where Morrow County taxes come from, who gets the breaks, when are the tax reduction, like the data farms, solar wind projects, when do they come out of tax abatement? And go on the rolls, how it's done. It's a really, really good presentation, very clear. So if any, and I asked him, I said, if somebody comes to you and says, hey, come and show this, he says, I'd be happy to. So I'll commit it out there for that. So please get a hold of Mike Boardman if you really want to know about Morrow County taxes. And hear it from the horse's mouth, not a rumor. Okay.
So I will go into the water. Morrow County was the lead on a $1.7 million EPA grant that came from the federal government. We're talking about stipulations and restrictions on money coming through the state versus EPA and federal. So that money, we went out to RFP for an engineering company, because it's obviously a huge, complex issue. It's gonna take more than the 2 counties and the Lake to be able to get this on track. So some of the tasks will be they're gonna track and do a for the funding for these projects. Addressing source identification of neighboring and nearby land uses, well and septic system assessments, aquifer availability and connectivity, remediation and domestic well alterations, well repair and maintenance, and information and outreach are going to be their main tasks, main goals for this group, whoever gets the bid. Last I heard, there was at least 4 companies who put in RFP, which is more than we really were expecting, because it's such a specialized project. It's going to take a specialist group. We're impressed there were that many that felt they were qualified to do so. And through that, there's a QATP and QAP, the quality assurance program that they have to go through to make sure that they can do everything that needs to be done, right? So it's not just going to be they think they can do it. They're going to have to show they can do the job. There is a scoring group through the Water Advisory Committee and the Lake that's going to take a look at these RFPs and help them picking who gets the job. Company will work with Morrow and Umatilla counties as well as the Lawama and their solutions and prioritizing what practices that we need to do. So that's coming up. So we've gone quite a ways with that money at this point. Going in the right direction, I think. A lot of people saying that you really don't need to do more testing, but the testing that's been done was for nitrates. Some of the other testing that we're going to do for engineering is looking to hook up to existing water systems, if that's available, that's possible. Also looking at, like I said, well repair and septic repairs, as well as water districts, and that's the route we have to go. So that's what this company is going to do is kind of figure out what the best solutions are for the water issues that we're having. So, and then Lawama has a meeting on Friday from 11 to 1. If you're interested in what is going on, I would suggest you zoom into that, or Levin's probably not going to allow you to show up in person, but it would be something to zoom into to try to get an idea of where they're headed. So,
Junior, can I ask you a question?
yes.
So, when you talk about domestic well repair and, going in and doing an assessment of the well, maybe even repairing the well, finding out the land use, and we want cattle or other farm animals, is this money going to be actually funneled into repairing those wells, the moving of septic systems, whatever that is?
But this is just an engineering solution grant. So this grant is,
So it won't
it has
pay for
cycle.
the fix, it just identifies what.
Absolutely. And we are in the process of applying for other grants. None of those have come through yet, but there's lots of money out there. Federal funding available. And once we get, you can't apply for a real grant for a solution until you know what those solutions are. So we have to have this done first, so we know what the actual objectives are before we can put in for some of these other grants. You can't just put in, because you don't know how much money you put in, right? We don't know if it's, a water system. And the Lawama, if you don't know what the Lawama is, it's the lower Umatilla Basin and groundwater management area. It's the west half of Umatilla County and the north side of Martin County. It's not one water system. It's a conglomeration of lots of smaller water systems within this area. So there isn't like a one solution fits all, right? So there's lots of, so some of the studies that Morrow County's done with our GIS is, we've done some, through the testing that we've done with nitrates, we have hot spots in the areas, so the areas that have more high nitrates than not. They're just smaller urban neighborhoods is what they are, rural neighborhoods. So they have, that area, we know there's issues, so we can focus on that area. We can go in and look and see what the problems may be. And some of them, they have a well that was put in 35 or 40 years ago. It wasn't cased properly, and now the casing has failed. Not only is that creating groundwater to their well, it's also creating contamination through to the next aquifer. So those are, if you want to clean up the nitrate at the groundwater level, you have to fix all the other issues. So there's not one solution, it's not one problem. It's very complex.
And they're gonna look into the idea possibly of doing a trade of water, like moving water from the river into the.
So that is a separate, that would not have anything to do with this grant. Okay. So you're talking about recharge.
Yes.
So yeah, recharge is something now is working on, the state's working on. And there are possibilities, yes, but we have active recharges in Morrow County that are working. They're not perfect, they're not great, but they are helping. So we need to figure out, and before you can even go into a recharge situation, you have to know what the water system looks like. It's not one big lake, right? It's not one big groundwater system. There's fields and poles and channels and yeah, so lots of stuff to be considered. Certain places recharge lower, certain places.
Can I add to that? There's a ledge meeting tomorrow at 2:30 in Salem. That if you want to listen to the water resources, natural resources It starts at 2:30 tomorrow.
What kind of meeting do you want, Kelly?
It's a ledge meeting, that's the water, legislators, part of the water, natural resources, a couple other entities, but I think a big topic there is gonna be the water.
And then the other thing, I was working on was, wolf depredation. So Union and Wallowa counties are holding an investigation training in Pendleton on the 23rd of January. I went to my first meeting yesterday. Well, yesterday was my first meeting, so I'm just getting my feet wet in that. But I am gonna attend, the investigation training in Pendleton on the 23rd, so. That'll be, I think Todd Nash is the chair of that, and in our county, it's Boone Robinson, correct? Who's our chair? He and I.
Do we have any trouble with that in our county?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So one problem was that we only had one application put in, and they tried the first time and they didn't have it. Didn't have all their I's dotted and T's crossed, so we went back, tried to help them get it done right. The deadline was December 18th. Came back and still wasn't to what regulators need to have any kind of.
Was that investigation?
It was for, that particular one was for missing. It is definitely, but it's for missing apps. Yeah, and there's, to do the missing, there's a whole lot of past and present, statistics that you have to match and meet, and they weren't matched. But there are two active book backs in the network. So,
There's one of your name.
Yeah. Umatilla County has their own. Is it?
Well, I guess, listening to, some of the concerns of the cities, I hear about grants and stuff, and some of you are able and willing to write your own grants, but, without having discussed it with my two fellow commissioners or Matt, I guess I'm kind of throwing out there, the county has contracted with two professional grant writers in the past, and, again, don't be funny with them, but I would assume that they would agree that we'd be willing to offer up those services, and I would direct you to go through, work with Matt to utilize those services like a grant writer or something. Because, my limited experience with grants is, kind of like Junior's talking about the wolf depredation, dot your i's and cross your t's and use the right verbiage, you aren't gonna get your grants. If you work with the professional grant writer, your chances are a lot more successful, and they're also tuned into what the grants are available for certain things.
What's the name of your grant writer?
Nick Dakota is one of them, and then the other one,
Ronan DeGloria with GSI.
no, he was a contractor.
But he did write some of grants.
Right, but we had a different grant contractor.
Oh.
Maybe this one, but we do have those resources if needed, be sure to give them.
And you also have, a fund that GBODC administers.
Yeah, revolving loan fund.
Yeah.
But from my recollection or understanding that was, for like a business use type thing.
Gentlemen.
Well, maybe some of us know a business.
Well,
Maybe I'm bringing up a business.
What hunting group?
Matt, yeah.
I just have a few quick items. I'll start with the least controversial. One thing, just let all the cities and know that our emergency manager has just secured and working with our public works, a sandbag machine. So hopefully we will get more snow this winter, but we do have items that, if there is flooding, and I hope we get a little bit just because we need the moisture. We now have a machine that'll help to speed things up, allow us to stage several thousand and then refill more in the future. So particularly down the south, down Long Creeks, and there's issues. the county will be prepared to respond to needs. Second item, the Loop is looking to do a soft start on the Boardman circular that's going on. We've got the staff up to be able to do that. We're meeting with the Loop director tomorrow to work out marketing in that, make sure we do a big splash. And we want to make sure it's a good thing. Other routes are under consideration. We are just finally staffing up on some of those. So we've been looking for drivers for a while, so we're looking forward to that. Other one is Circuit Court. That's been a little bit long. Last time I announced that I was hoping that the stakeholder meetings would start in January. We're just finalizing contract. The holidays slowed that down a little bit, but we're anticipating with approval of the contract over the next week and a half that we'll have a start date of February 1st. And so that'll be going on in Hefner, but it is a countywide thing. The last one is a little subject called the ambulance service area thing. If you have heard of it, it's been out a little bit. I just want to reiterate, and I've reiterated in 5 different public meetings, the county right now is trying to fix the structure of the ASA. No designation on providers has been made, and we don't anticipate that until we get the ASA taken care of. We have a draft out to interested parties right now to finalize. This is the polished draft that we're going to send back to OHA this Friday. And once we do that, we will be publishing that for all public to know and see what's going on, along with a schedule that will reaffirm that the ASA will be going to OHA, coming back. We will be doing public notices as required by ORS and OHA, and that there will be public hearings for public comment and interested organizations to make comment on it before the board makes any certification and then sends it back for OHA approval. That will be published and sent out and made available this Friday. And so we're hoping that some of the fear and anxiety that's out there. We realize this is a big issue. It's a big change. We don't go into it lightly. And once we get that in, we can start talking about providers and working with the interested parties on that side of things. So that's where we're at with the ASA. If you wanted to let me know, I will be dabbling out a little bit early, so I'm not available after this meeting for questions. But if you do need to contact me, all the commissioners are open to feedback. I know more of the details of it at this point because they've kind of made it a staff internal thing to get the working structure up, and we're close. And so we're hoping to have some resolution in the near future and work through some of the little hiccups and hurdles that we have for us. So that's all I got for him.
Good. We mentioned the presentation that you gave.
Oh, yes, I've given presentations, of course, in 2 county meetings. We went and did Boardman City Council, and then did Hefner's this past Monday. I wanted to reach out to the other cities here again. I've been talking with Aaron, but I'd be more than willing to come to the city councils and share that presentation of what the county's logic is behind that, and just realize that we are deeply committed to continuing ambulance services throughout the county, and are just looking for a good solution as we go forward.
Any questions for the county?
I just have a question. Dig on the mitigation for the solar project, economic mitigation. If that, I know it's a new program, but if that's accepted by the state and solar project, do they pay money towards mitigation? How is that money doled out, or how is that used to mitigate?
I'm glad you brought that up. I've had calls from people, I think 5 by now. Hey, I heard the counties, I heard you guys are giving out money. Okay, so, I went to Sunstone, and I said, hey, you guys gotta come up with a plan here on how you're gonna handle this. So they have, so it seems like a good plan. They haven't, we're gonna make it public, and Matt might know a little bit more, but we're gonna make the process public, you know, and someone who wants to submit a proposal, there's going to be a committee made up of, you know, like the grain growers and, some farm people and a county commission and so forth. And they will determine, prioritize the, mitigation projects. I know Kevin Payne has put in quite a number of really good ones. But there again, we got some structure on how this is gonna be handled now, so, and we'll get the word out on who, and how we're gonna, you know, an ask, so to speak, for that.
It'd be great if that mitigation money made it to the people who are actually affected by the economic change.
Absolutely, and that's the whole plan.
Yeah,
And just to add on to that, instead of being like an amount of money that goes out every so often, Sunstone prefers to pay that full bill up front. And by doing so, it gives you more money to actually get a project done, right? They don't want to string it out over 10 years or whatever. They prefer to have that mitigation come out, dealt with before, as soon as construction starts, and have that all the money available.
And initially, there was a direction to try to identify projects up front. And we're just like, this is too much to do just from the hip. And so they came up with the idea, we'll give you the money, form your committee. We like that better, so it's all vetted out and can be weighed and stored.
And local weigh-in too.
Yes.
So,
And just to repeat, it's all Sunstone money, none of it's county.
yes.
We're just kind of the middle, well, not even up, it's committees. We're just kind of there to kind of help the process along, so, okay.
The way the term vision and this works is that it will increase yield or production for those farmers that are still farming, you know, that didn't take their land out of production. So that you're mitigating the loss of, so if it's 10,000 acres, that's 5,000 acres a year, or bushel, that's 200,000 bushels a year from Mathis, right? So you're trying to mitigate the loss of 200 bushels a year. Or 200,000 bushels a year, so there's, some of the things that, were initially proposed was like a smart sprayer that can actually identify weeds. So it only sprays the weed, doesn't stunt. A mill on the back of the combine crushes any chaff or any seeds that comes through so that weeds don't come up, which take nutrients and water away from the crop that you want to grow. So in theory, they're going to increase the production of the crop. So, that's the types of projects that they said that they're looking for, something that's going to mitigate the loss of 200,000 bushels a year. To increase those existing farm or other farmers who are still farming, to increase their yield. So that's what they're doing.
And one of the crossroads there is, if you pick a project right now, and this happens 3 years from now, technology is going to change so much in the next 3 years because it's changed so much in the last 3 years that you got to expect it to do so, just like the weeding project. Right, it's a laser that literally is on the tractor that shoots a laser beam and burns up just the weed, right? So you're not applying pesticides, weed, herbicides or that kind of thing. So the technology is going rampant. So what it could end up being is nothing that's even on the table.
And then just a quick second question, only because I'll try to make it brief, because it's been brought to me as I guess, because they think the port has to say in the CDA, I know this is not a port issue at all, but it has to do with Irrigate Fire and whose boundary includes the CDA property. Either one for both. And their concern was that Irrigate Fire, they felt should have that in their territory. It's going to be annexed in as new ground for financial purposes to support their fire department. I know, or at least I guess, and I need clarification, because I can at least reply back to them. Boardman Fire is an application to cover the CDA. And, I guess my opinion is when you have $4 billion worth of value here in Boardman, I'm not sure why you need the CDA property to add to your taxing district when we've got a fire department in Oregon who can't afford to hire a full-time fire chief. So they can either, I heard today, they can either hire a half-time fire chief and put gas in the engines, or they can hire a full-time chief and not put gas in the engines. So I'm just curious, when does that vote come to you as who gets the CDA plan in their fire districts?
It's something we've actually, it's interesting, we have a contract that's come before the CDA for fire protection. We also have, you know, requests to extend service there. And quite frankly, I gotta figure out how, amending fire district boundaries goes. And that process has not been officially started. And instead of doing contracts, it would be better just to amend the fire districts and allow that to be adjusted. It hasn't gotten very far on our tables. We haven't received, we received requests from Aragon, Fire District and some desires to be involved on that, but, we really gotta figure that out, and, we haven't.
So that'll be a couple of processes goes forward, I assume.
Yeah, and so hopefully by the next one of these meetings, that's either resolved, or you can hold me to task. Hopefully it's not.
So the comment that I will make, just I've been told by CDA staff, is that when they first looked at this, they approached the Oregon Fire Department at the time. Larry Burns was the fire chief, and he expressed no interest in it.
Yeah, I think there's renewed interest out of that.
Yeah.
From a fiscal standpoint, I think.
Well, I can understand that, but you know, I'm sorry I'm sorry you're in the fire department. You know, not that we won't look at that, but when you come in at 11:59, and we gotta do something at midnight. And up to that point, you said that you were interested, you know, it puts us in a challenge.
Well, land isn't even owned by that. So truly wasn't an issue yet, because it's.
But we're needing to, you know, from the CDA standpoint, to needing to get fire as, coverage established out there, this affects the insurance rates.
And so it needs to come back, and I would disagree, because, you know, and I think that's why it's important we all get together, because people in leadership, don't, you know, that Larry don't have any vision, it's just, he's a government hacker. He was a fire chief for federal government, even like Sam's, and somebody else does that, and he's had an office. But it was farming property, they did their own thing, you know, even for anything else, Oregon's never been at the table. And I've been pushing it, and we have other districts, even the others out there. So I think that people need to look outside the box. It's not in contiguous land, and I would say, yes, we need it. I think there's people that got biases and we've heard that before. I said it, set it aside. What was big, and how we all for the jurisdiction, so that we all work together as a county, and not somebody. As we've said, and still is said, it's just very, I think that concept needs to stop. It's just got. What was that? I mean, it's just very good. No, before that. The one said the, what? I'm just saying, it's just arrogant. There are people that still have that mentality, but they'll just ignore us, we're just arrogant. Oh, in your community? And people outside. And I think that needs to stop, or it's Lexington, it's Ione, where it's happening. Time out, we're Moral County. And how do we, collectively become stronger, and stay strong?
Okay, anything else from county?
Joe, I was gonna say Katie did have her hand up.
Oh.
She put it down. It was a long time ago.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you, Brandy. This is
Yeah.
for Commissioner Sykes. You were talking about the Sunstone project. And it's my understanding that the commissioners have been, appointed to a SAG committee to oversee.
No, we're not appointing a committee.
No,
So-
you've been appointed by the state.
The council special advisory committee, many things that have sacraments in our jurisdiction. And part of that is, you know, run through Cameron and stuff. So like when Cameron brings the letters to us for comment to the FSAC, we are the special advisory.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's, we will endorse, what they come up with. And I was a little hesitant before they laid out a plan to do that, to just say, we're gonna endorse whatever you, so we're gonna have, input from various groups, citizens, businesses. So we feel confident we're gonna get a broad range of opinions and, mitigation plans. And that's not to say we're just gonna do it, you know, rubber stamp it, we might have, we don't know yet. But it is gonna come to us for final sign out before it goes to us. That's what Sunstone
Sure.
wants.
Are those meetings public?
The meeting, well, I'm not sure about the committee meetings. I don't know about those. I know.
The advisory committee?
There's only gonna be one county commissioner on the committee, I think, if
I think you're talking about two different things, Dave. I think you're talking about the mitigation thing, and
Yeah.
Dave's talking about the FSAC process.
Oh, the FSAC is definitely over.
So.
Well, yeah, but they appointed, it's my understanding that they appointed maybe one or more of the county commissioners to an advisory committee on either the Sunstone project or the Wagon Trail project. I'm not quite sure.
Well, we plan on having a commissioner on the Sunstone advisory committee. It has not been put together. We do not have, one of us has not been assigned to that. It's still in the works, it's still being developed.
Okay. Okay, well, I think, so Lexington and I know Boardman also, are one of the close jurisdictions to that project, those projects, those two in particular. And, was just curious if we would be updated on the progress.
Yeah, I don't see why not, and, along with that, we're awaiting and I have to also, for some guidelines on what kind of projects you're looking for, what are the rules if somebody wants to put in a proposal for a project, you know. What do they want, what's the guidelines, what kind of ones they want to look at?
Sure.
So hopefully we'll have all that and we'll make sure you get it.
Thank you.
Okay. So for the county questions? Okay. We'll move on to the report update. I've got a few things on the list here, and the other commissioners, you're free to chime in. Lisa and Mark are back in DC today. Working on with the application. The staff has been working real hard on getting that, getting questions answered to get our projects going in the right direction there. What else we got? Really, it's more on the ground stuff that Jacob or Mark want to talk about. The Bill Grant's been going along and see the bridge over there down here Marine Drive. You can see that from the road here. I think they got planned for paving in the spring. Did I get that right? I was thinking this
How
spring.
about an opening of the road to Market Ford? No,
Yeah.
no anticipated date, because that's
No.
really kind of intense.
It has.
Understanding like for the bridge and thing,
Yeah.
but it's kind of.
Yeah, I mean, they were planning to have this short piece, from the pizza shop down at Mark 40. Hey, but the way things went, they had to redo some stuff. Time-wise, it didn't work out. And since it's all graded and basically ready to go, they didn't want the traffic on it. After we do it, okay, so. Yeah, we're gonna be waiting on that one for a while. I was told, I think Lisa told me yesterday that the port and the county were invited to work together on an interchange management plan for Tower Road. Does that sound right? Maybe I misunderstood.
So, I mean, the planning department and the planning commission deal with the interchange management plan before it ever sees us.
Okay.
So that's go through the planning commission report, which is our.
I want to say it was just on the county side. They reached out to the board. And Lisa jumped on that.
Well,
Be
you
part of that.
guys have lots of ground out there.
Yeah. So that's good. Okay, what else we got? There's a few, community projects I just wanted to give you an update on, that the board has done. We helped with the pickleball courts in Oregon, those are all done, I believe. Just report on those. Yeah.
Weather's killing people.
Yeah,
They're inside.
I know that they helped with some parking lot stuff here. They went down to Ione to help with flooding, when they had that little flood down there, and I went down and helped out there. It's really kind of really been working on this WIPU stuff. Trying to get that going. I think you've all got the update before, our 3 digesters are up and running, so we're trying to get that out and. I must have missed it, the mitigation, the heifer mitigation floodplain, we talked about that.
Progress is being made there.
Yeah.
We have a Chris 3 topic on the new business agenda. I don't know if it is covered exactly, it's kind of vague or something's coming up. I think there was something about everybody's on.
There's a boundary change for Chris.
I heard about it.
You guys know about that.
Yeah,
Well, there-
that's in February 1st, I believe that meeting is.
We have it on our agenda to discuss before February
Yeah.
first, just so that February first is a joint meeting with the county, with,
Okay.
Maybe an actionable meeting now.
I believe that that's the hope, doesn't mean it has to be.
Then we have that report from my phone.
Yeah,
We have that on the, on the agenda for that
Yeah.
10.
There's two press meetings coming up.
There is, yeah. That's kind of, I didn't have a lot on my list to do, Joe, yes,
I have one.
go right ahead.
Did Joel have a question?
Dave, no, I
Okay, you know, you mentioned joint agreements. I kind of forgot our broadband agreement between the port and the county. I don't know if you, most of you are aware of how that's working, but the county, and it's federal money, it's infrastructure money, has been, as it worked its way down to the state, Morgan County's set to get around $40 million to do a build out of, high-speed fiber to the farmers that don't have access to it now. Us, the people that live in the cities, I think everybody's just about got it. I think Lexington has it now, but, you know, so, you know, we have fiber in the cities. Well, the people in the outlying areas, you know, especially like the kids doing homework and stuff like that, you know, I'm sure they're not playing games on that. Anyway, no, so they're gonna get that fiber, you know, we're gonna get the fiber, and I, you know, just, I don't know if any of you know about this, in county at large, but one guy came to me, you know, one guy says, well, I've already got Elon Musk's, you know, Starlink, I don't need that, and then another farmer came to me and said, I'll be glad when you guys get that in, because phone service is terrible, so they can go what they call voice over IP and use, you know, use the fiber to do their phone, so I think it's gonna be real good, and we're way ahead of the game. I had one county call me up the other day and said, would you guys like to go in with us, because we haven't even started on Harrison, I said, we're ready to receive clouds, you know, it's, oh. So we are, in fact, they used the template of what was developed for us, around some other people around the state, Aaron Moss.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did a really good job on that.
Yeah, there's a meeting.
And then we have an administrator, Nick Green. He was the city administrator, John Day, and he's our hired administrator to take care of this. Seems to be a really, really good person for this. I think he's doing well. So, John's chair. I should let him get this before.
We do have a meeting in 2 weeks with the broadband committee, and everyone waited for a year in the state, and Aaron was way ahead of the game getting our county plan together. So that's good, because when Business Oregon took a year to get their application figured out and when it was gonna be done, then it was announced over the Christmas holiday. And it was due end of January. So everybody's panicking right, except Morgan County and a few other counties that saw the planning that needed to get done and it's done. So this meeting in 2 weeks on Tuesday, hopefully everybody can attend. I know Rick's also a member of it, so are you the alternate? I am. You gotta be attending. I did ask him to include you, right? I don't know if we could bring you on that. We will be looking at our application and we'll go in on time. I think we'll be one of the few that get it in on time. That's good. It's $150,000 grant for planning of the system in Mon. Good.
Tori's on that committee too, if you guys want a local person to talk to the board.
Oh, Joe, this is Joel. I'd like to add to the report, the good things the port does. When had a problem with their water system with contaminated water, we sent over a couple experts to help, and they were greatly appreciated and facilitated correcting that much quicker. So, yay, Port.
Yeah, that was a surprise deal down there. I'm glad we were able to go and assist and get them back up and running. Anything else, Kelly, you got anything, or? No, John, okay. Anything, we'll go on here to, the next one, which is the, good of the order.
I do have a comment and I have a question.
Okay.
So we have, my comment is, we have a Pres meeting coming up, and it's important that we remember the purpose of the Pres meeting. What the Pres funds were designed to do. Okay, they were designed to go to the highly impacted areas. That was the whole purpose of it. I think since that's the Pres funds, it's so controversial because there's so much money there, and I get that. But it's important for people to realize the CREZ funds and the disbursements that it was designed to be was to go to the most highly impacted areas, which was designated as the port, the county, and the city of Boardman. Because they are the ones who have the struggles on creating and maintaining infrastructure, and they have the impact of populations and everything else. And so it's important that we remember that as many of us are going to that meeting. The second question I have is, I need somebody to explain to me why I am hearing that the Boardman Golf Course is going away. And it's being discussed at the port.
It has been discussed.
And I want to have some serious, I need that answer on why that would go away.
Well, we discussed it and we have a consensus that it's not going away. We had concerns, the commissioner had some concerns about the amount of money we have spent on it. You know, why are we spending this much money on the golf course when we could be spending on something else and some water problems or what have you. And we discussed it and we came to the consensus that we didn't want it to go away.
I hadn't heard that.
We could have said, yeah, you know, it's too much money, we're gonna sell it or whatever, but that's not the case so far, but we've given, let me see if I say this right, we've given direction to Lisa that, we're not gonna spend that much money. We're gonna streamline this thing, try to make it, efficient.
I understand that and I get that, but I want to make sure that, the port also knows how important that is to the community. I think it's also important to know that if we look at how many millions of dollars we can spend in other communities as well to save a certain project, that we don't go on that.
Which project are you?
Well, we already brought that, I'm talking about the mill. There has been so much money that's spent in there. And so to say we're not gonna spend money on an entity inside of the community, I get the streamlining, but because if you're gonna limit the spending on one spot, then you're gonna have to limit your spending in other spots.
I guess I need to know what funding we spend.
Well, I heard 12 million today.
I would need to hear that. I need to see the history of that.
Well, I would like to see the history of that. You know as well as I do how much money is spent there. Then a lot of.
That's no.
Okay, but we've spent, there's been.
Excuse me, this is Joel. I would summarize it differently. It was discussed, but no action was taken to close the golf course.
The points that were brought up for the golf course is, why does the port own a golf course?
Why does the port own anything?
Why not?
Why do they own anything?
Why?
The point is
not.
what I'm saying is, it's to benefit the communities. They can't give us more county, giving people more county.
So the other communities come on this.
Anybody needs to know is the point, like, it should benefit everybody, and it does. Because we could even argue we should have given the money to the irrigation track, and we should have done the money for there. We shouldn't have done it over there. That's the piece that we don't want to open up. I like the idea of streamlining, but now we have to be careful, because if we're gonna start limiting in one area, then we're gonna start limiting everywhere. And that is, we don't want, because once we start holding people accountable for that, then everybody's gonna start, and you're just gonna have this fester.
I don't think that was the intent of bringing the question up.
No, I don't think that was the intent either, other than maybe get rid of the work golf course.
I don't really think so here. I think it was just brought to our attention that, hey, there's a lot of money spent here.
And maybe there is.
Maybe, that wasn't the greatest thing to do, but,
But we have it.
here we go.
So, yeah, and so how do we fix it?
Yeah.
And how are we gonna move on? And, and so now that we're gonna do that, now people are gonna be out there watching, making sure, watching, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, watching how much the port spends on certain projects in certain areas. And that is not what we want. Because that's not what's best for the county. Because there may be areas in the county that need more money from the port than other areas.
Question, so you're asking the port to fund those projects, $2.6 million into the golf course, into revamping it, $300,000 a year to operate it. You would like the port to pay for that.
I didn't say that.
So, well, that's what you just said.
I didn't say that.
The port was insurance, what else is it?
Didn't say that. I was just saying that if we start limiting certain areas on how much money we put in each community, we're gonna, I think it opens up for skepticism on how much each community gets. And we just heard from 3 South communities that are struggling. Okay, they're struggling.
Where are you inferring? The money, you're just saying it'll affect the amount of money they get from where?
From the port.
From the port.
From how much port support they give in our communities.
Okay, as long as it's not press, but.
I'm not talking about Crest, I'm talking about the port, I don't know where the Crest is. So I'm just saying, if we start limiting certain projects and ownership and things like that, then we start opening ourselves up on how much money is spent in other areas. So, and we just heard 3 presentations tonight, how the south area needs some help. And so, if we're gonna start limiting support in one area due to ownership of things, then we got issues in other things, because every time you go and give money, you have part of an ownership. I think the port has part of an ownership in the Irrigan tract, they did a lot of work there. And I'm not saying that, but it's ownership, not in the fact that we did the work.
But they didn't give any money.
No, they did the work, that's what I mean, that's the thing, so I know they didn't give any.
If they won't give any money, trust me on that.
And I'm just saying, that when we start doing that thing, it just opens it up and make it bigger, that's all I'm saying. And so when we start, whether it was intended to be an attack or not, or a streamline, it came across as an attack. And so as the board and mayor, I get pretty, I hear, oh, the port's gonna take away the golf course, whether it should be there or not. That wasn't the decision that was made by me or was made by a committee or somebody else. So now we gotta move on. How do we fix it? And that's what I heard you trying to do.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know that we're not gonna lose the golf course and one day it's gonna be closed, because that would not be right. Whether it's impactful or not.
That's not it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Those were my comment and.
All right.
Yes, Joe.
No, I think that's unfortunate that it went this way, that the commissioners, the Board of Commissioners never voted on stopping the golf course. We discussed it and that's all.
We're borrowing $432 million.
Yeah.
Yay.
Well, we don't have to be snarky about it.
Well, that's.
Oh, okay.
We don't have to, well, the truth is, we don't have to be snarky. I mean, if you want me to ask, you can ask, but don't be snarky.
Okay, and you're gonna stop right there. Okay, so, anything else for the good of the order? Okay, I'll call this meeting adjourned at 8:06. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.